Hey, Stampede fans, Jim Olander here with you, and a special Q&A session with new head coach Marty Murray, who's joining us here on Zoom. And Marty, I guess officially now we can welcome you here to Sioux Falls. Welcome to the Sioux Falls Stampede.
Thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be part of a great organization. Been at the job now a couple of weeks and real excited to get going. Hopefully we can get back on the ice sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously a lot to talk about here. A lot has happened since you've been hired, but want to spend a little time for fans to get a chance to know you a little bit better. So tell us a little bit about your background. You've got a pretty extensive playing background and then obviously going into coaching, but give us a little background on yourself prior to coming to Sioux Falls.
Yeah, I grew up in rural Manitoba, lived in a small farming community. My dad farmed. Mom was worked around the house and took care of the kids, I guess. And when I was 16, I moved away to Brandon, Manitoba to play hockey for the Brandon Wheat Kings for 4 years. Had a great experience. I was able to be part of two gold medal World Junior teams with Team Canada. And during that time in Brandon, I was drafted by Calgary Flames in the 4th round. And started off kind of a roller coaster ride of a 15-year pro career. I kind of was all over the place. I ended up playing 6 years in the American Hockey League, 4 years in Europe, and then 5 years in the NHL. So great experience. Loved every second of it. And the people we meet along the way was probably the best part of it. And after retiring at the age of 35, we were settled in Minot already. My wife is from just outside of Minot and only an hour away from my hometown. So, I was trying to figure out that next step in life and what I was going to do after the hockey career. And the Minot Minotaurs came to town. I really didn't know too much about the North American Hockey League at the time, but I was assistant coach the first year. And at the end of year one, I was promoted to head coach GM. And 9 years later, we worked hard to establish ourselves as a respectable organization at the junior A level. And here I am today. I'm thankful to get this opportunity with the Stampede and really looking forward to moving to the community and get to know some people. And I think I speak for my whole family when I say we're excited.
Well, we're certainly excited to have you here in Sioux Falls. And you mentioned you have an extensive playing background. And I'm always interested because coaches who obviously played the game, it seems they knew that as soon as their playing days were over, they wanted to be a coach. And some, it might not be till after you're done playing. Was there a point in your career, like you knew that you wanted to be a coach, or was it till after you retired that you decided, maybe that's something you wanted to explore?
I guess during my playing career, especially towards the end, probably my 30s, I know a lot of people, maybe teammates or even coaches that I had the opportunity to work with, said, hey, you might be a coach someday. And I really never thought too much of it. And when I retired, trying to think of what I was going to do, the opportunities came my way. And I'm thankful that the team moved to Minot and got me involved in the coaching fraternity. And this is going into year 10 of being a coach in junior hockey. And, everything I have is owed to the game of hockey. And I'm so fortunate to be involved in the game today.
What do you think you learned most while you're in Minot coaching the North American League that's kind of prepared you here for this next step in your career?
Well, I think, from a coaching standpoint, I think you can always learn. I think once you stop trying to learn and trying to get the advantage, that's when you maybe fall through the cracks and lose something, So I'm always trying to learn. Certainly, playing and knowing a lot of people. There's a good network of friends I have that I can lean on and talk to about certain situations. And you've been watching on TV and NHL games. Sometimes you know those people behind the bench, and maybe in a couple of days you call them. So I'm fortunate to have a strong network that I can rely on. To just chat hockey, and I think that's how you get better as a coach. And during my 9 years in Minot, very grateful for the opportunity I was given here. It gave me a chance to continue to do something in the game I love, and I think the best part of it is passing on knowledge and experience to up and coming players that have the desire to play beyond high school or midget hockey. It's great. It's very satisfying to see those kids get an opportunity at the collegiate level, and in Minot, some some guys have been gone on to pro, and hopefully we are able to kick that up a notch as far as coming into Sioux Falls and getting to watch those kids down the road someday playing in the NHL. As a coach, that's very satisfying.
Before we go further, you mentioned your family, and obviously I know they're a big decision and are a big part of the decision in coming to Sioux Falls. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, my wife and Andrea and I are celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary this summer. Actually, we've been together for I think we started dating when we were 17. So we've been high school sweethearts, and she's been through me through thick and thin. She graduated from Minot State University, and when she was 22, we've been together, and she's followed me virtually all over the world, and she's the rock of our house, that's for sure. And I know a lot of times doesn't get the credit she deserves, but she's certainly the person that is in charge of our whole household and does a tremendous job. We have three kids. Alex is our oldest. She's going to be a junior in high school. She's 16. Our son Cole is going to be a sophomore. He's 15 years old, and then our youngest Addison is going to go into 6th grade. So family 5 moving down to Sioux Falls, and we've been down there I think 3 times, and the kids every time we go seem to get more excited about making the transition, and we're really looking forward to getting ingrained in the community.
Well, I know you're a well-respected coach, very well-respected what you did up in Minot. I know that's also led to other opportunities prior to even the Stampede job here. And I know that you've had a few that you decided just to stay in Minot. What was it about Sioux Falls and the Stampede that maybe made this different than some of your previous opportunities?
I think just my initial conversations with Brian Schoenborn, it started off, I thought it was going to be another one of those, hey, I'm flattered for the opportunity. Thanks, but no thanks. We're real happy in Minot. And I kind of thought that was the way it was going to go. But just continued to talk to Brian and just getting to know, I think, the ownership and the board a little better, and just understanding how genuine they were and how nice of people they were, made us think long and hard about it. And we continue to have talks around the dining room table at dinner time, and at first the kids are a little reluctant. It's a hard age for them to move away with friends and school and graduation coming up and stuff, but we continued to talk about it, and before we knew it, everybody was on the same page, and we were decided we were ready for this new adventure. And like I said, we're really looking forward to it, and it's a great organization, and I think one of the things that to get me out of Minot would have been a great opportunity and a great organization. And we certainly identified the Stampede organization as that.
Well, certainly an exciting time for you and your family and for the Stampede organization. And it was kind of a quick turnaround for you because you officially got the job, got introduced, and then I think it was only 4 days later that now all of a sudden you're getting ready and you're sitting down for the USHL draft, which obviously is important, with the phase 1 being kind of future players and phase 2 being more players geared towards, the upcoming season. What was that process like, and how much stress was that for you, just having to make the quick turnaround and make sure that you're ready to go?
It was an extremely chaotic time, that's for sure. That window of, like you said, 4 days when it got announced, a lot of people reaching out, offering congratulations, which I greatly appreciated. A lot of advisors, a lot of schools reaching out for potential kids and being prospects for the Stampede. So it was a whirlwind. It was kind of a blur. I tried to take as many notes as I could, just because I thought I might forget some things, but it was a fun time. I think your adrenaline gets pumping a little bit, and leading up to the draft, the staff did such a great job of virtually having everything in place, and we talked a lot going into the draft as far as our needs going into the season, and Scott Owens was kind enough to stay on and help us out and guide us through the draft, which really helped us, and the entire coaching staff of Rylan Gagliardi, Brett Skinner, and Riley Kovar did a tremendous job of creating a strong prospect list, and the day of the draft was obviously very hectic, but we're happy with what we came out with.
Uh, Obviously, it's when we talk let's talk phase two of the draft, which is going to be more players coming in. And obviously, in a good situation, I think, from you as a coach is unlike last year's team, you have quite a few players that can potentially come back. Obviously, kind of changes your draft process a little bit, but goaltending obviously is no question is kind of the missing piece there. You don't have a goaltender coming back. And I know that we're able to snag a couple of those in the draft, including with your first pick which wasn't until the third round. But was that kind of a focus that you felt like, hey, we need to get somebody with some experience that we can bring to camp and take a look at here that could potentially step in and play for us this year?
Yeah, no question. I think, going to the draft, like I said, you identify some holes that maybe we had. And one obvious one was, losing two goaltenders going into the season with, both of them Stauber aging out and then Reed going on to college that was obvious. So that was a priority in the draft. We had a group of players that we, had ranked and we were fortunate to get them. And even though we only had 4 picks in the first 10 rounds, it was nice the way things fell. We were able to get a lot of players that we had identified and probably didn't have expectations of even getting the player. So the fact that they were there, I think we took advantage of the 4 picks we have in the first 10 and really got some good ones beyond the 10th round as well.
How much of a challenge was that for you and the staff? Just you pointed out that not a lot of draft picks, only 4 in the first 10 rounds. And especially in the USHL draft, because you never know who's going to get picked, right? I mean, everybody kind of has a different philosophy. Some guys may think highly of a player than other coaches, but I would imagine it's a little more hard to just prepare because you're not really sure who's even going to be there. It's not like you have several picks in the early rounds. You're just you want to take advantage of the ones you have, but at the same time, as you mentioned, you don't have a lot of picks to go with early on.
Yeah, you know what? One thing we're thankful for is I think we can return a good number of players from last year's rosters. So it wasn't like we're starting from scratch. I think there's a good base there, and from there we could kind of, like I said, zero it down there where we could identify some areas that we needed some help. And I think if you follow the draft, the goaltending was a priority and some scoring up front. So I think we accomplished that, even though we didn't have a lot of picks. We did a good job of identifying those players that might be there when we were picking. And to be honest with you, I think we're all surprised a couple of them were there. So we're thankful with what we came out of the draft with, and now we have a lot to work with, and really looking forward to seeing everybody on the ice together in camp.
And certainly, hopefully, be able to do that here later this summer in July, get everybody up and going and see everybody. I know part of obviously being a coach and a new coach, the tough thing with the way things are going these days, you're not able to meet with people in person, but I know you took it upon yourself to call each and every of the returning player and kind of introduce yourself. How did those phone conversations go? And, how excited were you to get a chance to talk to some of these guys that are coming back?
It was nice. I think just even though, like you said, we're in strange times right now. You can't, we don't know if we're going to have camp, and hopefully that's the case. But just to reach out, I thought that was important, just to, get to know them a little bit on a personal level. And even though they weren't tremendously long conversations, we didn't get into a lot of hockey stuff. It was more just a nice to meet you conversation. And I was real impressed by everybody I spoke with. Fine group of young men that spoke very well and seemed very genuine. So that's a good start to having a good hockey team, is having good people. And I left those conversations thinking that we had a great group of kids in place.
Obviously, a long ways to go before the season starts, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to meet the team and obviously see them in camp. But you mentioned Scott Owens kind of sticking around and helping with the draft. How much have you leaned on him just to even get some insight on some of the returning players and getting some info? Because while I know you obviously are aware of the Stampede, obviously you probably weren't following as closely as the head coach would, because you were busy in Minot with your team during the last season.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I mean, probably didn't think too much about the Sioux Falls roster up until about a month ago. So, a lot of players I wasn't familiar with, and certainly leaned on Scott. Went through player by player basically, and had a good conversation about each of them, and obviously leaned on the staff here in place to give me some guidance on what to expect from guys, maybe what some things we're looking for them to be better. So I thought that gave me a good base of kind of what we had to work with here, and like I said, getting to talk to the players, it gave me a better insight of what we have, and looking forward to those guys being a year older, coming back next year and taking it to another level.
Obviously, a big part of the team is the supporting cast, the people you have around you. And I know you spoke very highly of your staff in Minot, and putting this staff together. Just announced the other day that you've got Brett Skinner coming back, you've got Riley Colvard coming back, Chris Lonke joining the team. Tell us a little bit about the staff that is coming, and kind of ironically, I mean, hockey is a small world, but I know that Brett Skinner and Riley Colvard were guys that you knew pretty well already prior to taking the job in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, no question. It's kind of funny how small the hockey world is, really. And starting with Brett Skinner, he's from Brandon, Manitoba, where I played junior hockey, and turns out he was best friends with my little billet brother. So I was a little bit older than him, 7 or 8 years. So when I was 10 years old, and we'd be playing knee hockey in the basement of my billet house. So I've known him for a long, long time. Brett had a great career. Very smart hockey guy. He understands the ins and outs of the USHL. I've leaned on him a lot in that regard. Really looking forward with Brett working with our defensemen. I think it's a natural fit that he played the position at the highest level for quite a few years, and I think it's a good combination for me with my background with working with forwards and him as a defensive coach. I think it makes for a good start for the staff. And Riley Colvard is another guy that I've been familiar with for a long time. I coached against him. He played in Austin in the North American Hockey League. I always appreciated how he played. He worked hard. He's an honest player and a good leader. And Riley suffered a setback in his second to last year in junior hockey, where he broke his neck and missed a good portion of the year. And I was always impressed with his attitude. It would have been easy for him to stay at home and just sit on the couch, but he was out and about, and I know he went scouting with their staff and kind of got his feet wet a little bit in the coaching capacity. And ever since then, I've had a strong respect for what he did and the work he's put into it. And ironically, we had conversations a couple of years ago about him joining our staff in Minot. It just didn't work out at the time, but again, another guy that I'm very familiar with, and it made the transition a little easier. And then lastly, the guy that I brought over from Minot was Chris Lonke. Chris has been my right-hand man in Minot for probably 8 years, and just does a tremendous job of scouting and identifying good hockey players and good people as well. And he has a real knack of maybe even finding some diamonds in the rough, which our track record in Minot would suggest. And thankful that Chris is along for the ride with me. He'll do a great job, and I think the Sioux Falls people should be excited about what he can bring to the table as well.
And I would imagine for you personally, last month has been kind of a whirlwind, I know, of things, but maybe as early as even this week, now that you've got your coaching staff, you've got the draft, I know you're in the works of relocating to Sioux Falls. I'd imagine maybe starting to get the adrenaline pumping a little bit here and getting excited to get things going too.
Yeah, no question. I think, it already seems like the summer off season's been an eternity already. So, and we're not into the middle of May yet. So there's lots to do. For me, even understanding the nuances and rules and regulations of the USHL rosters and stuff like that. So that's some of the things I've been trying to educate myself on here, when there's time. But, ultimately, we do this job to get on the ice and get behind the bench. And, that's the best part of it, is getting on the ice, working with the guys, and then ultimately seeing the product on the ice. And, that first game can't come quick enough, and hopefully we can start in time.
What for fans maybe not as familiar, what can you say, maybe what's the biggest difference between North American League and the USHL? Obviously very similar leagues, so different tier, but what's maybe the biggest adjustment that you'll have to make?
Well, I think the age of the league is a little different. I think the North American League, they don't have a limit on 20-year-olds, so they tend to have quite a few older kids. That being said, the USHL, obviously, probably 90% of the guys are already committed to Division I already, where in the NA, that's what your goal is. You're trying to get those kids Division I opportunities. So even though it's hockey, it's a different level. I want to try to get these kids as prepared as I can to go to college and be good players when they come in. I take pride in that. And at the same time, I'd love the opportunity to see these kids on TV playing in the NHL one day. I think that's what it's all about. And from a coach's standpoint, you get great satisfaction of seeing these kids do well, not only on the ice, but off the ice as well.
Obviously, now the next step is tryout camp, and for fans, we typically have that in early June because of the COVID-19 going on. That's been pushed back to probably late July. But I imagine you've started the process now after camp of kind of starting to invite these guys. And I know it's a little different because there's still some unknown as where we'll be come July, but just getting people to camp here and starting to organize what your camp will look like, and hopefully being able to piece together a team from there.
Yeah, no question. That's always an exciting time when you can have that main camp. And you know, the way I ran things in Minot, and fortunate that, you know, it's kind of the same philosophy here in Sioux Falls where, you know, we want our camps to be good. We're not one of those organizations that goes out and has 14 teams at camp. I don't think that is good for anybody. It kind of waters the product down, and then, you know, maybe gives some people some false hope. So we're worried more about having the quality of player than quantity, so to speak. And that's what makes camp so competitive. And from me going into my first season, being, you know, going in with an open mindset, you know, seeing a high quality camp and going into it with, you know, jobs up for grabs. I think that's the most exciting part. I'm looking forward to see who sees this as a great opportunity and puts a stamp on a role with the hockey club. So that's always, to me, a real fun time of the year when you can get to camp and see what you have after all the hard work of recruiting, and you know, hopefully we can have that camp at the end of July.
All right. Well, Marty Murray, new head coach of the Sioux Falls Stampede. Marty, I know you got a lot of things going on. Appreciate your time. And again, welcome to Sioux Falls, and look forward to get things going here real soon.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
And fans, don't forget, you can stay up to date in the latest Stampede happenings, sfstampede.com, the website, or follow us on social media at SF Stampede. We'll have more things throughout the course of the summer here with the team and head coach Murray as well. So stay tuned for more details to come. Hope everybody is staying safe and healthy, and have a great day.